We mentioned bracketology. President Obama did fill out his brackets yesterday with ESPN's Andy Katz. Take a look at a little bit of his handicapping of the NCAA field.
And here, what I think may end up being the best game of the tournament, Kentucky-West Virginia.
Now,
and I think Kentucky pulls it out. And here, I finally break away from Reggie Love, and I pick Nova.
Wow, okay.
That's my Final Four.
Oh, there you go. Two Kansas teams. Kathleen Sebelius obviously having a lot of sway over the presidential pick making, but two number ones and two number twos. I don't know if I believe in that bracket. Karen Tumulty joins us here from Time Magazine, and Karen, you've been counting the votes as this goes along. What's your latest read? You expect this is all going to happen this week? Is Saturday the day, and this is all going to get done?
Yeah, I think at this point it's sort of lock and load for the Democrats, and. You know, I don't think they are going to know whether they've got the votes until the hours before that vote. This is the kind of thing we've seen in 2003 on Medicare Part D, in 1993 with the Clinton economic plan. These guys don't commit until they have to.
Do you have a sense of sort of Pelosi's math right now in terms of how many of the Kucinich-like flips she needs to get this bill passed? Do you have any idea where that's at?
Well, the last I talked to people in the leadership, they thought that they have basically, you know, they're in a situation with the number of deaths and retirements they've had where they need to get exactly as many votes as they had. If everybody stayed exactly where they were, they'd be fine. But they think they're probably going to lose. Bart Stupak says he's got 12 people with him on the abortion language. Leadership says that's probably more like 6. That means they are going to have to flip at least that many people. Right. And the first place they're going to go beyond the sort of people who, like Dennis Kucinich, who went so far to the left that they ended up on the right, is they're going to look at, for instance, conservative members who voted against it who are retiring this time around.
Those are tempting targets.
And then the second argument they're going to make, they're going to look at some of the moderates and say, look, this Senate bill is not as expensive as the bill you voted against last fall. It's not as big. We've gotten rid of the public option. You can go back to your constituents and say, hey, I helped improve this bill. And that is, I think, an argument. And then in the end comes the deal cutting. Here it comes, do you want the president to campaign in your district? That kind of thing.
Well, R.J. Tapper asked President Obama his reaction to Dennis Kucinich. He doesn't usually respond to shouted questions, but he did to this one. Take a look.
That's a good sign. What'd you tell him? I told him thank you.
Big smile from the president. It does raise the question, though, and Dennis Kucinich spoke to this specifically. We put the question out on Twitter. What presidential lobbying can mean, whether it can be an effective technique at this point. These members of Congress have heard all of the arguments, but is there something special about the President of the United States saying, I need you on this one?
Absolutely. I called up Marjorie Margolis-Mezvinsky a few weeks ago. This was a woman who became the final vote on Bill Clinton's economic plan. She threw away her political career in doing it, but she said, you know, ultimately the president comes to you and he says, look, my whole agenda, my whole presidency is riding on this. That is an enormously difficult spot to be in. And, you know, very likely for some of these House members, this is going to be a career-ending vote.
But it's a tough argument for Rahm or the president to say, listen, you're going to lose anyway, so be with, right? I mean, no member of Congress really wants to hear that, right?
They don't, and they're not going to say that directly, but they are going to say, you know, we'll help you with the fundraising, we'll help you with the campaigning, and maybe there's another piece of legislation you want, that sort of thing.
Karen, you had an interesting post up on your blog at the Swampland blog about the different rhetoric over the procedural options that are being used right now. Steny Hoyer, who's out this morning on Good Morning America, defending the use of this the deem and pass, wasn't always a fan, right?
No, in fact, in I believe it was 2003, he was testifying in front of the Rules Committee about what an outrage these self-executing rules were, and I just now he's saying, well, there's precedent for it. This is what he had to say in 2003. We should neither excuse those past practices nor count their occurrences. And then he says he described it as a demeaning of democracy. Wow. So, of course, we've seen a lot of hypocrisy and sanctimony on the other side as well.
A demeaning of democracy, and yet it does seem like this is the way they're going, right?
It does appear that way, although let's face it, when this rule comes up for a vote, nobody is going to portray it as a vote on a rule. They are going to portray it as a vote that either makes this health care bill law or doesn't.
So what good does it do them? Isn't this just a procedural mess that they don't need?
I think it's a little bit of, rhetorical rhetorical airbrushing of a very important and difficult vote. But in the end, I actually am would love to know how many votes difference that makes, rather this than if you just said, okay, we're going to vote on this bill.
Me too, because I can't imagine a single Democratic member who's running for Congress in the fall saying, "Oh no, I didn't vote for the Senate bill."
Right.
I mean, I just can't imagine that.
Or any voter going to the polls saying, "Well, he just voted for the rule."
Right. We're learning a lot about procedure in all of this. Karen Tumulty from Time Magazine, thank you for being with us. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
having
me.
And your final 4 picks? Come on, or tell us who's going to win it all.
Texas.
All right, there we go. Good with you. We like to hear it.
That does it for this edition of Top Line. Be sure to click us on again tomorrow.
Twitter.com/TheNote. Let us know what you think of the president's picks. I'm telling you, I want upset.